Hiya. You know, there were a couple of things bothering me that I hadn't really gone into in my chat previously with you. And you must have thought, now, what's that Lord Toby Jug and his message to me got to do with actual, something being significant? And of course, I'd thought it, and I didn't tell you. But of course, the thing is that I saw this float to the ground just after I'd been speaking with my granddaughter, who was actually in the West End of London, and had sent me a little video message. And she was actually in Soho, and she was very near a club that I used to frequent with this guy's uncle, Screaming Lord Such, Dave Such. And many moons ago, when I also used to do the odd gig with, standing with bands and things, so I was around all of them at that time. So that was what the connection was. All of a sudden, his card to me turned up just after I'd been speaking with my granddaughter about his uncle. And the other thing was that I was showing you these cards that I'd got from the SNU. Excellent. They're actually Pioneers of Spiritualism cards. And I told you that I'd pulled out this random card of Frederick Myers. And I didn't explain fully, really. I did mention that, of course, that it was to do with the cross correspondence he communicated after his passing with Rudyard Kipling's sister, who was a very, very excellent medium. But you see, on the back of each of these cards, they're not tarot cards by any means. They're information cards. And it tells you here, for instance, Frederick W.H. Myers, Spiritualist Pioneers, 1843 to 1901. He was a professor of classics at Cambridge University. Of course, that's not far from me. And he was a founder member of the Society of Psychical Research. Yeah, well, we talked about that. And he was its president, apparently, in 1900. He sat with numerous mediums, investigated Eusapia Palladino, very famous, notorious medium. And it talks here about the cross correspondence, in fact. Excuse me. It talked about its cross correspondence. And so it was very, 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 very interesting. Yeah, it says here, you see, he started to communicate through various writing mediums. One of them was Rudyard Kipling's sister, in different parts of the world. And the messages made no sense individually, but when they were put together, they formed messages. And these became known as cross correspondences and proved excellent proof of spirit communication. So that's what this was all about. Sorry about that. I should have made that clear. Also, I referred to the woman of Endor. I was talking about the Bible story, and I was in a hurry to sort of get through it. And I said, oh, well, of course, you could read the Bible. Well, I'll read it to you to save you looking it up. And it's in 1 Samuel. Now, where are we? She said, where are we? Oh, yes. It was the Philistines were gathering forces, what's new. Samuel was dead. I'll go from there. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had mourned for him and buried him in Ramah, his own city. And Saul, remember, had put the mediums and the wizards out of the land. Remember, I did mention about them being banished from Israel, and I said no, they wouldn't have been banished. But anyway, the thing is that they were all underground. And the Philistines assembled and came and encamped at Shunem, and Saul gathered all Israel, and they encamped at Gilboa. When Saul saw the Philistine host, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. And when Saul inquired of the Lord, in other words, asked Spirit what was going on, he refused to answer him. He never got any messages. He couldn't get anything for himself. And you remember I was saying that how we can get stuff for ourselves. We don't have to go to a medium. And Saul obviously knew about that. Either by dreams or by Urim, a symbol worn by the priest when seeking the will of God for Israel, or by the prophets. And then Saul said to his servants, find me a woman who is a medium between the living and the dead, that I may go and inquire of her. They were looking for a medium. He'd already told them that it was illegal. And his servant said, behold, there is a woman who is a medium at Endor. So Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he and 2 men with him went and came to the woman at night. And he said to her, perceive for me by the familiar spirit, and bring up for me the dead person whom I shall name to you. And the woman said, see here, you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off those who are mediums and wizards out of the land. Why then do you lay a trap for my life to cause my death? And Saul swore to her by the Lord, saying, as the Lord lives, there shall be no punishment come to you for this. And the woman said, whom shall I bring up for you? And he said, bring up Samuel for me. So she said, who do you want to speak to? And he said, Samuel. And that was a real giveaway. And when the woman saw Samuel, she screamed. And she said to Saul, I don't think she would have screamed. Why have you deceived me? For you are Saul. You see, so I think she screamed because she realised who was inquiring from her and was frightened. The king said to her, be not afraid. What do you see? And the woman said to Saul, I see a god. I don't think she said that. She would have said, I see a spirit coming up out of the earth. I don't think so. Coming to the earth, perhaps. And he said to her, in what form is he? And she said, an old man comes up covered with a mantle. Well, there you are. She's describing her communicator. And Saul perceived it was Samuel. So he understood, yes, he realised that was Samuel come. And he stooped with his face to the ground and made obeisance. Well, he sort of bowed to her, or bowed to. And Samuel said to Saul, why have you disturbed me to bring me up? So remember this, that either this was direct voice when Saul was actually hearing the voice of Samuel, or it was through the medium who told him what Samuel was saying. Why have you disturbed me? And Saul answered, I am bitterly distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and God has departed from me. Well, we know that God doesn't depart from anyone. And answers me no more, either by prophets or by dreams. So he was obviously not getting any direct information. So he says, therefore I have called you, that you may make known to me what I should do. So in other words, he wouldn't have said that. He would have said, I've asked this woman to get hold of you. And Samuel said, why then do you ask me, seeing that the Lord has turned from you and has become your enemy? No, he wouldn't have said that. The Lord has done to you as he said through me he would do, for he has torn the kingdom out of your hands and given it to your neighbour David. Well, yes, but, because you did not obey the voice of the Lord or execute his fierce wrath upon Amalek, therefore the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Well, people do get a bit pompous, don't they, sometimes when they come from spirit. We know this. They give instructions, and you have to think, all right. And then he says, moreover, the Lord will also give Israel with you unto the hands of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons shall be with me among the dead. The Lord also will give the army of Israel into the hands of the Philistines. And then immediately Saul fell full length upon the earth floor, and was exceedingly afraid because of Samuel's words. Well, I'm not surprised. It says there was no strength in him, because he had eaten nothing all day and all night. Well, he must have been very worried. And the woman came to Saul, and seeing that he was greatly troubled, she said, Behold, your handmaid has obeyed you, and I put my life in my hands, and have listened to what you have said to me. So now I pray you, listen also to the voice of your handmaid, and let me set a morsel of food before you and eat. So this lovely medium did what we all do, and we gave somebody who was in need some food and drink. And you may have your strength when you go on your way. But he said, I'll not eat. But his servants, together with the woman, urged him, and he heeded their words. So that's what he did. And then they rose up and went away that night. Well, there you are. And then, of course, the following day, what Samuel had told the woman to tell Saul came true. Because, as we know, they can tell the future for us because they have I would say, a further horizon than us. It's like when we look, we only see from our eye level. And if somebody is higher up than us, they see further. And that's how I describe how those in spirit see what's ahead of us. Whether they choose to tell us or not, and for what reason, ours is not to know why. But they're either allowed to do it or they're not. And obviously in this case, Samuel was allowed. He was told that he would be able to tell him what he needed to know. Perhaps because you need to be prepared. So there you are, you see. So here we are. There's this wonderful thing behind this of spiritualism, and I must tell you that there's one of my mentors, Vi Kipling, is right in the middle there, which is lovely. And there's loads and loads and loads of these cards. Oh, look. Ah, I knew him too. Albert Best, the wonderful, more present day, more modern medium, with all the information about him on the back, which is just lovely. They've done a really good job on this. The bit I was saying about wouldn't give you tuppence for the first paragraph on the back of this is because they're telling people that they can use them to sort of give messages in the style that some of these mediums gave. Well, that's nonsense. You no. But everything else is very good. So there we are. I'll put Frederick Myers back. As I say, it's very good. And again, when I was visiting, I was just drawn to that, and I thought, well, this would be very nice, and not just because Fire Kipling was on the front. And there's the a magic card that I told you about and didn't really explain. And I hope that you enjoyed listening to that story that's in the Old Testament there, in 1 Samuel. If you want to have a read, like I said in my conversation with you before, there's spiritualism and mediums all the way through the Bible. You know, Moses used to go and sit in a tent of thick darkness. Well, he used to go and inquire of the Lord in this tent of thick darkness with 70 men. They always were men, apparently. 70 people, perhaps. Again, it's all about translation. You know, in the Bible, especially in the New Testament, they talk about the Jews, which would be Yehudim in the actual Hebrew, and that just meant people, really, because where everybody was a Jew, the Jews, if you said, well, you know, they're Yehudim, they're Jews, they're the same as you are. So it doesn't have that pejorative effect that the translation of it into Jews in that sense. And don't forget, of course, the Bible itself, Old and New, up until not that long ago, was only read out to people. It was only read out to them because the majority of ordinary people were illiterate. Jews were never actually illiterate because the first thing they learn is the alphabet, which is the alphabet, which is also the numbers, and they're taught right from little. So that's a tradition, if you like, if not a religious requirement, to be able to read what is written. However, mostly these things were related, and before they were written down, they were spoken about. So it's an oral history that gets written down, and those translations have caused a lot of upset over the centuries, and particularly to the Jews themselves. What can you do? But the other word for translated, they use the word translated when they mean teleported. Taken from one place to another place, like magic. And that's also something that mediums know about and spiritualists know about. So there, I hope that that's cleared up a couple of points for you. It is very personal. Everything's very personal. And I would just like to leave you with, like I always do, with a little something to prove that that those we love and help us from over there are listening to what we're saying tonight. And I'll get hold of this little book and I'll say to them, we'd like some proof. Thank you very much. A little reading for us. There we go. Well, here we go. Let's see what they've given us. Tell us not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real and life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow finds us further than today. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time, footprints that perhaps another, sailing over life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. We'll see our footprints, we'll know what we've done. This is what we've just been looking at, isn't it? Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labour and to wait. And that was written by Longfellow, that great poet. There. He also wrote "Oh, for the touch of a vanished hand," but we won't go into that right now. So I'll say God bless to you. I hope you enjoyed our further chat. And don't forget to watch out for those signs and wonders. Know that they're all around us, like a cloud, as Harriet Beecher Stowe called it. And we looked at the lives of a great man and some great men, great people. So we know that they've been listening in too. So I'll say cheerio for now, and I'll speak with you again soon. God bless you. Keep you safe. Bye.